Hi, welcome to the Industry Astrology New Moon Forecast for June 20th, 2020. It's a total solar eclipse. The moon is waning, the energy is diminishing. How are you feeling? The moon is waning, and on June 20th, 2020 at about 11:43 p.m. Pacific time, the moon will conjoin the sun, cross in front of the sun, eclipse it, and then begin to wax again. Anxious, intense, shocked, worried, surprised. If you're feeling like things are in upheaval in your life in one way or another, you're not alone. We're in deep in this eclipse season. This solar eclipse is even more transformative than others because it's occurring at the height of solar power in the northern hemisphere, the summer solstice, when the days are reaching their longest point and the sun is at its highest zenith. The eclipse won't be seen in the United States or South America or Europe, but it will be seen on June 21st, crossing through Central Africa, Yemen, Pakistan, northern India, just a little north of New Delhi, and also going into China, quite close to Wuhan. Now, eclipses are not seen as favorable omens, it's true. They often incite change. The days surrounding, the weeks surrounding, sometimes years surrounding eclipses, we can see a lot of inflammation. Sometimes it's earthquakes, especially along the path of a solar eclipse. We'll see earthquakes, natural disasters, also social upheavals like we've been observing throughout the United States, and an awakening of some kind, a realization that things need to change. Another unique quality of the solar eclipse is 5 retrograde planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and Mercury and Venus are all retrograde. Retrograde planets are considered to be stronger and deeper in their influence in Vedic astrology, and it's an excellent time to review the past, do inventory. This solar eclipse is happening in the area of the sky or the lunar mansion, the nakshatra, called Mrigashira nakshatra. Mrigashira is actually the star of fulfillment. It's a star of anxious and heart-centered, heart chakra kind of energy. And actually the solar eclipse is happening in the 4th pada, the very last edge kind of degrees of this nakshatra. And the end of the eclipse is actually happening in Ardra nakshatra. So there's a story about this area of the sky, about Lord Shiva and how he grew angry at Daksha for disrespecting, in some versions of the story, it's for disrespecting Rohini, attempting to chase after her in the form of a deer. So Shiva beheaded Daksha to uphold Dharma. And this destructive energy that needs to sometimes come up, sometimes bubble up from the world, this destructive, righteous anger of Shiva, Lord Shiva, in the form of like the one who dances the Tandava, the one who destroys karmic cycles at the end of time. This is an intense place of the sky, really, and it has to do with how sometimes we need to stand up and get angry and motivate ourselves to make changes. So on a personal level, you may be feeling really at a breaking point in one area or more of your life, or you may have been experiencing a kind of purification, some kind of clearing away, a letting go. And especially because the added influence of Venus retrograde. I mean, we have layers of transformative influences on us right now in this month of June, especially because Venus goes through this process of death and rebirth in her retrograde cycle, where she disappears as evening star and reappears as morning star. the morning star, Venus, is much more focused on her self-protection, her independence. She leads the sun like a scout or a bodyguard for the sun, you could say. But she is the one that leads and decides for herself where her boundaries are. So she's rising as morning star, so you can see her if you get up early right before sunrise. So it's a time to be coming back to ourselves, grounding, looking within, and especially the power of Mercury retrograde especially is important. Mercury's power has been growing enormously since he entered Gemini a few weeks ago, and he's been conjoined Rahu, leading a Kalasarpa yoga, pushing for incredibly huge leaps in conversations and communication, or setting whole new standards of how you express yourself and defend yourself as well. Now, Mercury is stationing on the 17th of June, just right before this eclipse, and then he's going to start to move back towards Rahu again. So yes, Mercury retrograde times, especially when conjoined in an eclipse like this, can be quite transformative. There's a lot that can come up. It's maybe a pretty wonky time to be traveling. Okay, there could be a lot of delays, especially in the next couple of weeks, or also communication and misunderstandings can easily be inflamed. As I mentioned in my last forecast, well, this is true. It's continuing. There's a lot of power, though, for transformative and deep conversations, helping to shine some light into these shadows, into the blind spots that Rahu often causes us to ignore or look away from. There is a lot of action right now, a lot of power for inner work, it looks like. Let's just take a look at what the tarot cards have to say about this upcoming solar eclipse. Okay, so the first card that came up was the 7 of Coins. Some frustration and delay at this time. The Mercury retrograde and the eclipse energy, things are not going to bounce back this summer as simply as maybe we hoped from the influence of the COVID. In fact, one of the things about this eclipse is it's in the same nakshatra as the 1918 eclipse that went across the United States right at the beginning of the Spanish flu. So we're still under this influence, and it's interesting that the eclipse is ending where this pandemic began, in China, near Wuhan. So I felt like there was some kind of connection with that, like that maybe it is a sign that things are not ending so soon. We have some more karma to run as on the collective level around security. So there may be some slow growth and delay in progress. Same thing, another 7, 2 sevens, the 7 of Cups. And this, I feel, is really speaking about the illusion Rahu, the head of the snake, causes in relationships, the confusion, the projections, the confusing expectations of the heart, things that are unknown, things that are also they take us off track from the truth. So this is eclipse season is a challenging time. And that's why inner work is so important. And they say, actually, especially during the hours of the eclipses, and the days leading up even, we should be doing more spiritual practices. We should be chanting mantra if that's something that you do in your practice. And fasting is highly advised, especially for people who are going to be directly influenced by this eclipse, like those in northern India. Yes, fasting and focusing on spiritual practices on that day. The card of Mercury also came up, the Magician. So yes, this solar eclipse is so much about this Mercury retrograde, which is conjoined it, right? So he's also the, ruler of Gemini, where the solar eclipse is occurring, sidereal Gemini. So cutting through some of this illusion and surrendering. The sevens are the number of Ketu. Surrendering, letting go what you can't control too. Take a look. How do you find your truth? Underneath all the illusions, underneath all the tricky layers of denial, where do you find your center? Where do you ground? Allow for things to be, and be open, listening carefully to receive, witnessing in times of confusion. Come back to the mind and the breath, the witness that's always with you. Your truth is there. Okay, well, thanks for joining the Anandashri Astrology New Moon Forecast, Solar Eclipse Forecast. I do online readings on Zoom or Skype or FaceTime if you prefer, or phone. Do contact me and book a tarot reading or a Vedic astrology reading. I'll leave a link in the description window below. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and get on my mailing list. And please comment, like below. I love to hear what your experiences are right now during the eclipse. And I will see you soon on the next lunar eclipse coming up. We got one more on the 4th of July coming up. So